also start to become involved in daily briefings. We've seen him at a number of royal engagements.
And yet, all too often, it can feel distant and disconnected from our everyday lives.
It happened in seconds. A sudden commotion, an aggressive shout, and before anyone could fully process it, one of the Queen's royal guards was under attack. Tourists gasped, phones went up. But it wasn't the stunned crowd that made this moment historic. It was the presence of one unexpected witness, Prince George. The young prince, barely out of primary school, stood not far from the chaos. For a royal child, heavily protected and often shielded from such realities, this moment could have frozen him. But what he did next would leave onlookers stunned. Even members of the royal staff were caught off guard. Within moments, his reaction would ripple through the palace walls, reaching senior royals, the media, and the public faster than even the footage could. Most people wouldn't expect a child to do anything, maybe cry, maybe freeze. But George's reaction was something else entirely. And it wasn't just brave. It was something that made headlines around the world. Something that made even hardened palace guards raise their eyebrows in disbelief. This is the story of the day Prince George saw a royal guard attacked, and the shocking action he took that has the entire palace talking. The British Royal Guards are some of the most recognizable figures in the world. Dressed in their towering bearskin hats and crimson tunics, they stand motionless and stoic outside places like Buckingham Palace and St. James's Palace. But beneath the ceremonial look lies a disciplined military unit trained in real defense tactics. Despite their appearance, these guards are not actors or props. They're elite soldiers from regiments like the Coldstream Guards or the Grenadier Guards, trained in combat, security, and rapid response. They're authorized to act if provoked or threatened, and they have done so before. Videos online have shown guards shouting stern warnings or even physically reacting when lines are crossed. But one key fact often goes unnoticed. They're under strict protocol. Any physical reaction is taken seriously and usually investigated. And with the rise in global threats, guards are no longer just a photo opportunity. They're part of a very real front line of royal protection. On the day of the incident, it was business as usual. Tourists gathered, guards stood still. Prince George and his family were visiting part of the palace grounds, a routine public appearance mixed with family time. Security was present, but subtle. No one expected the next few minutes would test not only the guards, but the young future king himself. A loud argument began near one of the gates. A man, agitated, aggressive, started yelling and pushing against barriers. Before guards could intervene with protocol, the man lunged past the ropes. Suddenly, a royal guard was no longer just a symbol. He was a target. And standing nearby, watching everything, was Prince George. The crowd gasped as the man broke through the rope barrier. What started as shouting quickly turned into something far more serious. The intruder charged toward the stationed royal guard, his movements wild and unpredictable. Witnesses later described him as completely unhinged, possibly under the influence or mentally unstable. The guard, trained not to flinch, stood his ground. But the man swung his arm, trying to knock the guard's rifle away. The blow connected, not with force enough to cause real harm, but enough to break every rule of engagement around the royal premises. Screams rang out. Security wasn't far, but in situations like this, seconds feel like forever. The guard instinctively reacted, stepping forward and issuing the iconic warning, "Step back from the Queen's Guard." But the attacker didn't. He lunged again. That's when things spiraled. The guard shifted into defense mode, positioning his rifle as a barrier. In the shuffle, tourists stumbled backward, guards down the line turned toward the chaos, and palace staff jumped into motion. The attacker grabbed at the guard's arm. It became a physical struggle, brief but very real, a dangerous breach. Just 10 yards away, Prince George was watching. He wasn't supposed to be that close. But during the family's walk through the courtyard, he had paused to admire the guards, like so many children before him. His protection officers were only feet away, now alert, scanning and stepping in. But before they could act, something unexpected happened. Prince George took off running, but not away from the danger, toward one of the senior palace officers nearby. He pointed, shouted something, and signaled for help. At first, many thought he was panicking. but a staffer would later confirm. He gave a precise description of what was happening, fast, clear, and totally focused. He didn't freeze. He helped us respond faster. By the time palace security had wrestled the man to the ground, the guard shaken but unhurt, it was clear. The prince's alert had bought them valuable seconds. No one expected that level of awareness or bravery from a child. But that moment turned Prince George from bystander to hero. As the attacker was subdued and the immediate danger passed, all eyes turned not to the guard, but to Prince George. He was quickly surrounded by his security detail, but what stunned witnesses and palace insiders wasn't just the fact that he'd acted, it was how he acted. Calm, sharp, almost instinctive. George didn't cry or panic like any child his age might. Instead, he responded like someone who understood the stakes. One senior guard, later interviewed off record, described it best. He didn't look scared, he looked locked in. He saw something wrong and reacted, not with fear, but with purpose. According to several sources, George spotted the nearest palace staffer and immediately shouted, "One of the guards is in trouble, now!" He pointed in the direction of the attacker and described what he saw in just a few words. It wasn't a scream, it wasn't confusion, it was a report, and it helped direct backup instantly. That kind of behavior might seem rehearsed, something drilled into him. But palace insiders say otherwise. "There's no emergency drill where George is taught to respond like that," said one longtime aide. "That was instinct. That was him thinking clearly on his own." In the minutes that followed, George stayed close to his mother, Princess Catherine, who reportedly hugged him tightly but didn't scold or fuss. She whispered something in his ear, and he nodded. Later that day, after the situation was under control and the attacker taken into custody, Prince William was said to have praised his son privately. "You did the right thing," he told him, according to someone close to the family. And the guard? He personally thanked George during a quiet moment inside the palace. The prince, reportedly, just smiled and said, "I saw you needed help." In that moment, Prince George showed something rare, not just royal poise, but leadership under pressure. He didn't physically stop the attacker. He didn't jump into the fight, but his quick reaction and focused mind played a role in stopping the situation from getting worse. It wasn't just brave, it was royal. Back inside the palace walls, the ripple effect of George's actions was immediate. Staff members were stunned. Security officers exchanged glances. Even seasoned royal aides, used to drama and protocol, were taken aback by what had just unfolded. Not just the attack itself, but the young prince's response. According to one insider, there was this moment of silence after the incident, like everyone realized, wow, George really stepped up. Within the hour, word of George's quick thinking had reached senior royals. Prince William and Princess Catherine reportedly spoke with security and staff about how the incident unfolded and what exactly their son had done. The answer left them deeply moved. "He didn't just see it, he understood it," one palace official noted. "That's something you can't teach." The Queen was also briefed, and although she has kept her response private, royal commentators suggest she was quietly proud of the way her great-grandson handled himself. George's reaction wasn't scripted, it wasn't trained, but it showed a natural sense of duty, something the royal family values above all else. Behind the scenes, the guard involved in the attack reportedly requested a private moment with George to express his thanks. In a brief, quiet conversation away from cameras, he told the prince his response made a difference. That moment, between soldier and young royal, was said to be deeply emotional. And the staff? Some were calling it a royal coming-of-age moment, not in years, but in heart. In one brief second, Prince George had moved from protected child to someone the palace looked to and admired. It didn't take long for the outside world to catch wind of the story. Within hours, clips of the incident, filmed by tourists, began circulating online. But while many focused on the chaos of the attack, a different kind of video started gaining traction. A blurry but powerful clip showing Prince George pointing, calling for help, and staying remarkably calm. Social media lit up. "Future King energy," one tweet read. Another went viral with the caption, "That kid's got more composure than half the adults I know." Across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, the footage and commentary racked up millions of views within 24 hours. People weren't just impressed, they were moved. Parents praised the royal couple for raising such a poised child. News outlets around the globe picked up the story, with headlines like, "Prince George steps up during palace incident," and "Young royal shows true leadership." The discussion shifted from the incident itself to a broader appreciation for how George carried himself. Royal experts called it a defining moment, one that subtly shifted how the public saw the young prince. He was no longer just the cute kid waving from balconies. He had earned a new kind of respect. For many, it was a reminder that even the youngest members of the royal family live under constant observation, and that moments like this can shape a legacy. One former royal advisor put it best. In that one moment, George wasn't just a child of royalty. He showed the instincts of a future leader. That doesn't happen every day. And just like that, a young boy who had once stolen the show for his cheeky waves or royal giggles was now being praised for something far more serious: courage under pressure. Beyond the headlines and public admiration, palace insiders began quietly discussing what Prince George's actions might mean for the future, not just his, but the monarchy's as a whole. At just 11 years old, George demonstrated composure in a moment that most adults would struggle with. That matters. In a royal family often scrutinized for how its members behaved during crises, his reaction stood out. Not rehearsed, not managed, just raw, instinctive leadership. This incident has sparked conversations about how young royals are prepared for their future roles. Traditionally, children like George are slowly eased into public life. But this moment proved that, ready or not, the world is watching. And sometimes, it's the unplanned moments that reveal the most. Security officials are now reportedly reviewing how close royal children are allowed to be during public-facing events. Some insiders say new procedures are being quietly considered, especially after this close call. But others inside the palace see this not as a mistake, but as a sign. A sign that the future of the monarchy may be in remarkably steady hands. Because while no one wants a child near danger, what George showed that day was bigger than safety. It was a glimpse of his destiny. In the chaos of that day, with alarms blaring, guards scrambling, and a threat unfolding, it was a child who stood out. Not because he fought, not because he fled, but because he thought clearly, acted quickly, and did what needed to be done. Prince George saw a royal guard attacked, and what he did next didn't just shock the palace, it inspired it. In that single moment, a young prince showed the kind of character the world hopes to see in a future king. Like and subscribe for more incredible royal moments you won't believe are true.